This video describes scan validation using an RF gun. The purpose of scan validation is to help ensure that the items being picked, packed, and shipped are the correct items and match the pick ticket, especially on larger sales orders. A pick ticket is printed, the employee scans the items as they're picked or packed, and the system makes sure the scanned items match the pick ticket. PartsWatch allows this scan validation to be performed from the invoice screen using a wired scanner, and as of release 57.3, to also do the scan validation using a wireless RF gun function, as covered in this video. There are a couple of flags that need to be set to do scan validation with an RF gun. Let's listen in on Eric's session covering one of them.
Now we have some options for scan validation on the Controls Store Invoice Options screen. In the Extended tab, about halfway down on the right-hand side, there's a setting called Scan Validation. This enables or disables the scan validation feature. There are three options for this setting. If none is selected, scan validation is disabled. If Session is selected, every time a sales order is loaded on the point of sale screen, PartsWatch resets any previously validated items, and all items on the order will require validation. If Persistent is selected, when a sales order is loaded on the point of sale screen, PartsWatch remembers which items were previously validated, and the user is only required to validate the pending items.
The next three settings on this screen, add scanned items to existing sales order, prompt to add barcodes, and enable beeps and buzzes, only apply to scanning from point of sale with a tethered scanner, so we'll skip those for now. As of release 57.3, another flag was added. The RF Scan Validation Print Invoice flag determines whether a finalized invoice will print automatically after a sales order is successfully validated. If set to Always, an invoice will always print automatically after successful validation. If set to Never, the invoice will not print and must be done manually by the user from PartsWatch point of sale. And if set to Prompt, the user will receive a prompt asking whether to print the invoice. Now, there's something you need to know about how this flag plays with the scan validation flag when using the RF gun for scan validation. If you set scan validation to Session, you need to set RF scan validation print invoice to Always. Otherwise, when you call the ticket up manually later to print it, the scanned quantities will be cleared upon opening the ticket. If you set scan validation to Persistent, then the print invoice flag can be set however you like, and the invoice can be printed from the scan gun or from POS without your scanned quantities being cleared. We'll leave scan validation at Persistent and RF scan validation print invoice at Always. So let's get to the fun part. I've already printed a pick ticket where I've sold 2 of part 2, 3 of part 3, 4 of part 4, and 5 of part 5. I've picked my parts and assembled them on a cart, and now it's time to scan them in and validate them using the RF gun. So I'm on the RF gun now. In order to use the RF gun, some setups do need to first be done by PartsWatch support, so you'll want to contact them. Once that is done, the user will log in using the same login they used for PartsWatch. And then you'll see a new menu item called Scan Validate has been added to the menu. Now, before we can scan validate, we need to actually create a scan session. There's another video on scan session, and basically the idea of the scan session function is that you can scan in items for any purpose and then later use them to scan validate or to create an order and other things. So the first step is we'll create a scan session. The first step in creating a scan session is to give the session a name. And I usually like to use my pick ticket number. So our pick was 29820. And I click Done. And now I'm ready to scan the items that are sitting on my cart. Okay, I'm done scanning. We'll click Done. And it's asking me if my scanning is complete. Yes. It'll give me a total number of part numbers and a total number of items I scanned. Click Done. And notice our status is complete. Now we'll go back to the menu and do our scan validate. So the first thing you need to do is pick which scan session you're validating against, and we only have one, so this is the one we just created. Click Done. And here I could either enter a reference number manually, or I could also scan the pick ticket if I print barcodes on my pick, or I could page through the list and find my reference. So what this step does is compare what I scanned to what's actually on the pick ticket. And it's telling me that part number 4 is short by 1 and part number 5 is over by 1. So I must have either pulled the wrong number of parts off the shelf or scanned wrong. So we want to go back and take care of that. Now, depending on your company policy, you could either require that when a scan session doesn't match, that the scan session should be deleted and started over, or you can call up the scan session and edit it. So I'm going to call this up. And it's showing me what I scanned, and I see, okay, I scanned 2 of part 2, 3 of part 3. Oh, I only scanned 3 of part 4. And my pick ticket says I should have 4. So I'll look on my cart and I see, oh, I didn't pick enough parts. So I'm going to go and pick that part off the shelf and then scan in the additional one. Okay, so now I have 4 of part 4. And my other issue was with part number 5. And here we can see, even though my pick ticket said 5, I scanned 6. I should look at my cart, and it looks like I actually must have just scanned one of the items twice, because I actually do have 5 parts on my cart. So I'm just going to correct that to 5. And those are all my corrections, so I'm going to click Done. And I'm again going to say my session is complete. I have my parts count. And we'll go back and we'll try and validate this again. Here's my scan session. And now I need to pick my pick ticket. I'm going to go into manual entry mode. And it's all matched. It is not giving me any errors. And because I had my invoice option set to always print the invoice, yes is chosen for print invoice, and it's grayed out. I can't change that. So I'm just going to click OK. And that will actually go and print my invoice through Background Jobs. And that's really all there is to it. Now I have an invoice that matches what's on my cart, and I can box it up and ship it. Thanks for watching.